let me just bring up my screen here. All right. Thanks for that introduction, Mel. We are looking forward to diving in and sharing our thoughts on how best to utilize Facebook ads for not-for-profits. So just a little bit about who we are. That's me. Just like the slide says. I'm the CEO of Digital Hot Sauce. For those who are joining us from elsewhere in the world, I was born and raised in Canada, in British Columbia specifically. And yes, as like most Canadians fit the stereotype, I am a hockey fan, specifically a Toronto Maple Leafs fan, and love good maple syrup. That is my dog, as well as my wife, Sarah, dog Lilo. That's her with the tongue hanging out there. If you hear anything in the background during this, she's probably just patrolling the neighborhood.
And I'm Dylan. So I'm an Australian living in Vancouver and not in Whistler, which is quite hard to believe, I know. But in all seriousness, I'm running low on Vegemite. So I know we have some Australians in the chat today. So please send through any Vegemite if you can. I'm from Melbourne originally. I actually don't like coffee, surprisingly. I love to travel as well. And there's a photo of me on the slide there in Istanbul. And I'm also a huge dog lover like Kyle. And this guy's name is Fido. So today we're coming to you live from Vancouver. We both work for a digital marketing agency called Digital Hot Sauce, as Mel already mentioned. So we're really happy to be chatting about this today with you and bringing you some information that's really practical and handy for not-for-profits. So just going to dive straight in. What is Facebook advertising? We've got some points to talk through here. So we all know how big Facebook is, 2.74 billion monthly users. And in Australia, it's 11.4 million of that total. It's the third most visited website in the world and the second most downloaded app. So we do know how many people have Facebook. We most likely all have it as well. And another big piece on this is 80% of Facebook users only access the platform via a mobile device, so on their phone or something else, which is massive amount of traffic. And on average, we know that each Facebook user clicks on 12 ads per month, which is, again, a lot of ads and a lot of opportunity for non-profits and not-for-profits to capitalize on. There's a lot of information and data that Facebook knows about its users. And I'll break these down into a couple of different sections, but we all know that Facebook knows a lot about us. It knows a lot about the things that we like across different pages, across the content, and across the posts that we engage with on Facebook. And thanks to Facebook Pixel, this is a tracking piece that tracks users on over 8 million different websites from around the world. So it allows Facebook to track behavior off Facebook and on different websites, which is all information that Facebook has access to and can help with targeting efforts and campaigns, which we're going to dive into in a little bit more detail later. And it's not just Facebook as well. Mr. Zuckerberg doesn't just own it. He owns Instagram, he owns WhatsApp, and even Oculus, which is the VR technology as well. So there's a lot of different reach that Facebook has. So in order to drive this point home, we thought it would be a really good exercise to compare my newsfeed versus Kyle's newsfeed. So we both jotted down a few things that we're interested in. So I'm interested in politics, in travel, in craft beer. And Kyle's quite big into dogs, real estate, and marketing. And this was the result of my newsfeed. Having Facebook know all of that stuff about me, these are the ads and the type of different ads that it serves me. You can clearly see that the things I'm interested in are being used to target tailored ads towards me specifically. So because I'm interested in politics, The Economist is something that's obviously quite relevant. Because I'm interested in travel Yukon is pretty relevant as well. And I do love a good craft beer combo as well. So obviously this is going to appear in my newsfeed if I'm interested in this stuff.
And for me, I get served so many ads relating to dogs, and this isn't something I've told Facebook that, hey, I have a dog. It's because I visit websites relating to dogs, whether it's looking for pet insurance or the latest and greatest dog toy, anything to keep Lilo entertained throughout the day. And because I visit websites where I'm looking for information on real estate or communities around us, looking to buy either land or a property or a home, I do see real estate ads, and it's really interesting just as a test for yourself to start connecting why you might be seeing an ad in your news feed and relating that back to either something you've been looking for recently or an action that you've taken that might have triggered a certain ad showing up. So it's just interesting as marketers to pay attention to the things we're seeing and we're being served as ads. The ones I showed here are from Instagram stories or from my Instagram feed. Looks very similar for me on Facebook. And so we're going to pivot and we have a poll that we're going to ask here. And while that poll goes up, the question is, have you had or have you run a Facebook ad campaign in the past? And I'm just going to talk through while this is loading. We'll need about 45 seconds or so for this to work and for us to get some answers on this. But maybe you've tried this before. You've run an ad and you have created a landing page, or you have sent the ad to somewhere on your website, and you know, it's a pretty simple process. I've set the ad up, and I've got my landing page that I'm going to drive the ad to. We'll just wait for the answers to come in here. Looks like about 70% of you have run a Facebook ad campaign in the past. That's great. For those who haven't, about 35%. The numbers are still coming in a little bit. We're going to take you through what a Facebook ad campaign looks like, how to set one up, how to optimize that and scale it. But for those who have run an ad or a Facebook ad campaign in the past, this is probably similar to what you've tried, an ad as well as a landing page. And I'm going to guess that we've all experienced this at some point as well. Got this great ad, I've got this landing page. Oh my goodness, I didn't get any donations, or I'm not sure if I got any donations. And when we experienced this, we probably thought, Mark Zuckerberg, you little devil. And we've turned that like button into a dislike for Facebook. Our hypothesis is that doesn't mean that Facebook doesn't work for won't work for nonprofit organizations. Our hypothesis is that most advertisers are doing this wrong. And we're here today to help understand how you can do this better and how you can improve this. And so we're going to ask one more poll question here. Have you successfully run a Facebook campaign in the past? And we'll just pause here for the results to come in. Getting some good feedback here. A handful of yeses, about 35% yes and 70% no. So the hypothesis that we have here is this is validating our hypothesis for sure. That, you know, for most people, this process hasn't worked well in the past. So what's the answer? How do we do this? How do we improve this? How do we do this right? How do we solve this problem? The answer is that it's not a linear path from an ad to a landing page to a donation. And we're going to talk a lot about the funnel and why the funnel doesn't necessarily work for not-for-profit organizations. But just putting this together, it's not as simple as 1 and 2 equals a donation. There's many steps involved in the user journey. An ad and a landing page are just some of the steps that are involved. And what we're going to talk about for the next 20 to 25 minutes is how do we go about this? What's the step-by-step approach that we take at Digital Hot Sauce, so that when you're finished, and when we're finished today, you can actually go and launch your own campaign and test some of these efforts or assumptions to see if you can acquire new donors and to scale these efforts. So we call this our big reveal, and the reveal here is that this is a traditional marketing funnel, and we need to be thinking about this as we build out our Facebook ad campaigns and any of our marketing efforts, frankly. The way that this funnel works, you've got the top of the funnel, that's our lead generation stage. Middle of the funnel, MOFU, this is our lead nurturing stage. As you all know, marketers love acronyms, so there's lots of acronyms on this screen. And then the bottom of the funnel, BOFU, this is where the donation would actually take place. And at each stage of the funnel, there's various channels that we could be running in order to be serving the user at that current stage that they're in, whether it's a blog article, whether it's a white paper or a case study, whether it's our email efforts or an ad, remarketing, for example, a webinar, reviews. So, all of these different tactics, they matter, and it also matters that we get them at the right stage. But what's the problem? Why isn't this working for me? The problem that we see is that the marketing funnel makes a lot of assumptions about our donor journey. The marketing funnel also works well in some cases for e-commerce or for a product, maybe even a SaaS-based business, but it might not work well for not-for-profit organizations. Why is that? Because it assumes that people are just going to continuously enter at the top of the funnel. It assumes that our donor journey is straightforward, and it assumes that people can just consistently move through each stage. Here's a stat that we like to reference. The industry benchmark for conversion rates, so converting a new donor, is between 1 and 4%. That means that let's land this. That means that for every 100 people that visit your website, between 1 and 4 will donate. What that also means is that between 95 to 99 are going to not convert. Gravity, these organic forces that are working against us, our competitors, other ads or other advertisers, other organizations, they're helping pull people out of our funnel. And that leads more people not to convert than those who do convert. And so the point is, more people are falling out of your, more people are not falling into your funnel at the top, they're actually falling out of your funnel. And that can feel like you're wasting dollars, that can feel like you're wasting time and energy and resources, all of the things that are so critical and so important to a not-for-profit organization. So our big reveal, and our friends at Next After talk about this a lot, there is no funnel. We've actually flipped the funnel here, and what it starts to look like is more of a mountain. And so we call, our friends at Next After call this the donor mountain. We think this is a perfect analogy for what our donors go through to actually convert and give to our organizations. So if we flip this around, the macro goal, the donation, is actually there at the top of the funnel. And you can start to think about, okay, how can we help our donors up this mountain along their journey? And I've drawn this arrow on the side of this to use this as, this is the rope that we're using to help our donors up the mountain at every different stage. And when you really start to think about this, what is that rope? The rope that we're using, the mechanism we're using to help people up the funnel, this is our messaging. This is our value proposition. These are our unique selling propositions. These are the things that we need to be saying to people to convince them to give to us at every different decision point that they have within the funnel. There's all of these micro yeses that they need to say, yes, I resonate with that. Yes, that makes sense to me. Yes, I want to click on that ad, or I want to click on that landing page, or I'll click to open that email. You've got all these micro yeses before you get to that last yes of, okay, I will also donate to your cause. And so when we think of a value proposition, what does this have to say? The value proposition should answer this question. If I'm your ideal supporter, why should I donate to you rather than another organization or at all? And we have to keep that in mind as well, that they might not even be thinking of donating at this exact moment that we reach them. So how are we going to convince them not only to give to us over one of our potential competitors, or to give at all? So when you write your value proposition, we think that it's really important to be thinking about this. How is it relevant to our audience? We have to be clear about the value that they're going to see and that they're going to get. We have to be specific about the benefits, and we have to be different than our competitors in order to stand out in a crowded space. People are seeing lots of ads every day. They're clicking on 12 a month. Okay, how do we get one of those 12 clicks or a couple of those 12 clicks to be to our nonprofit? So we pulled some example ads here from some organizations that we love and that we've seen. And I want to specifically call out some of the things that I see here as, you know, really good value propositions, really clear, and for me convincing when I see this in my newsfeed. Sucevic Canada, for example, 80% of blindness in childhood is preventable or treatable. You can restore a child's sight in a low-income country and transform their life forever. That tells me exactly what I'm getting as a potential donor, and how I can make a difference and how I can help. Seeing Eye Dogs, with your help, we can train and match more amazing dogs like Nisha and change the lives of more Australians who are blind or have low vision. That is super compelling to me as someone who loves dogs, number one, and loves good organizations doing good work in the world. These are compelling value propositions to me, and they're conveyed in a really simple way through the ad copy that I'm seeing in my newsfeed. We also then need to make sure this matches on our landing page or on our website. This is another organization we've worked with, 10,000 Windows, restore a trafficking survivor's life. Really clear, really concise, to the point. The landing page here also tells me what my donation is going to lead to in terms of impact, if I give $15 or if I can give $50. Today in Canada for us, March 8th is International Women's Day. And so this is a campaign that's running right now, and the message is really clear. This year, restore trafficking survivors' life and help them reach their full potential. You can do that by donating to this organization. This is compelling messaging to me, and would match with what I'm seeing on the advertising side. So how do we do this? How are we going to start to discover what our value proposition might be? For some of us, it might be really clear. For others, it might take a little bit longer to get to. So what we wanted to do is just provide some tips in terms of how you can do this, how you can refine your messaging. The first one is talk to your donors, and find out why your current donors chose your not-for-profit rather than your competitors. Even if you don't think someone is your competitor, ask your donors who they see as your competitor, because it may surprise you here in terms of what they're seeing in the market. So some things we like to do when we start work with a new organization, we interview a handful of donors. We send a survey out to email subscribers. We mine comments from social channels, not just our social channels, but our competitors. You'd be amazed when a competitor puts up an organic post on Instagram, for example, and you just click into it and you see some of the comments and discussion that are happening. That can be a gold mine of opportunity for you to address some of the questions that these people are asking of your competitors. You can take that, answer the question in your own ad, and that can become a really powerful message. We've also included here some potential questions that you can ask donors. What do you love most? How do you explain your charitable giving to your friends and family? What are you most curious about? What are some things we could change or improve? This could be really good intelligence for you to get and to be able to address going forward some of the messaging. Another way that we like to do this is survey the market. And when we say survey the market, these don't have to be complicated or expensive surveys. The way that we work and the way that we prefer coaching others to work is to be scrappy and to be a little bit hustly on this to really find out how can I actually make what is the right message without having to spend hundreds of thousands of dollars to do a formal survey. Use social listening tools. Like I was talking about with Instagram, there's other tools out there that help with the social listening component of what people are saying in the market. Gain competitive intelligence by listing all of the people that you think might be competitors to you, and then review how they've positioned themselves. And when you do this, one of the most helpful things is just Google them. And what you're going to see there, and this is the purple line. Every person deserves freedom forever. That's clearly how this organization, 10,000 Windows, has positioned themselves. You can also click in and see what their homepage says. We've shown that just a moment ago. But that is also another way to understand how are your competitors positioning themselves? What sort of engagement might they be getting? I'm going to pass it back to Dylan here.
So let's get started with a few practical tips for building out campaigns and also talking a little bit about campaigns we've run in the past as well. So we're going to dive into specifically an email acquisition campaign and how that can work for you, because we've seen some great success with that in the past with other not-for-profits. We'd also like to cover what a remarketing campaign is and how that can help the donor up the mountain, and just coming back to this donor mountain concept and how we can pull them through and get them to eventually donate for us. Then we'll want to talk about how you can scale those results once you've learned from those campaigns that you've run, and how you can duplicate them and then run them in more successful areas. Before we do that though, there are a few practical tips and tricks of the trade that I want to run through that we'll be covering. And just this is stuff that we've done in our everyday work as well. So this is an anatomy of a good not-for-profit Facebook ad. And you'll notice one of the first things to come up is the image and video. So it's really engaging and it tells a story, and it's a great exercise to do that. It has a very strong headline, and that's generally what people read first. So it's very important that your headline has the value prop that Kyle has just been talking about in there, and it's very clear what that is. The call to action button as well, or website URL rather, should be branded, and it should have your organization's name in there, just so it establishes trust with the person looking at the ad. The call to action button has to be, again, really clear with what you're asking that donor to do. Are you asking them to sign up to your mailing list? Are you asking them to donate? Has to be really, really clear. And the primary ad copy at the top. So this is the section where it provides more in-depth and clarifying information for, again, the person reading, so that they're not confused and they know exactly what your positioning is and what you're offering. And as we mentioned earlier, Facebook's more than just one platform or placement. So this is a really important thing that we look at when we're crafting ad campaigns. There's a lot of different placements for you to choose from. There's the Facebook feed, there's Instagram stories, there's Marketplace, there's even Messenger sponsored messages, just to name a few of these placements that we see within the platform on a daily basis. For us, our suggestion is always to prioritize the placement based on the stage of the donor journey where you're operating. So for example, if all your traffic comes from desktop users, it doesn't make sense to prioritize mobile feed placements. It wouldn't make sense. So it's really important to think critically at this stage in order to select the placements where you want to run these ads. And it's a really important part of the campaign building process for us. Then we move into the fun part, writing your ad copy. So this is definitely a science in itself, and obviously involves a lot of testing. But it's something that, when done well, can really drive action for your donors. So it's very important to think about the value prop when you're thinking of the copy, as we've kind of touched on a few times. This is the key to set you apart, and to helping pull your donors up this donor mountain. And you should also, at this stage, be asking yourself a little bit about, who are we actually targeting? And when you've answered that question, then you can better write your ad copy to target these specific people. And then also, if you're targeting different people, which we'll run through in one of our testing frameworks in a later slide, you should be targeting them with different ad copy, because these are different people. So you shouldn't just be using the same ad copy for every person that you're targeting. The ad copy should also match to the image or the video as well. That's a really important one. So if there's a disconnect between the creative and the copy, then there could be an issue with your ads. Having one clear call to action is again really important. Just circling back on that, we want it to be not confusing for anyone. For a potential donor, it needs to be, okay, I'll click on this and I'll do this. And our favorite as well is always be testing at this point. This is something we just do on a daily basis, and it's part of becoming successful with your advertising campaigns. You know, if something's going well, continue testing and work out more from that and why it's going well. Try and link it to the human behavior behind it a little bit as well. There's also some great ad copywriting formulas that we tend to use. And one that we specifically like to use for not-for-profits is the ACA formula. So that stands for awareness. So essentially, you want to present the situation of the problem to your potential donors. Comprehension. So we want to help our audience understand how it affects them and what solution are we providing to that issue. Conviction. You want to ensure that you're creating a conviction, and making the donor use that solution that you're providing as well, and just ensuring that it's very there's a strong conviction within the copy. And then finally, action. So yeah, circling back to this call to action piece, what are we asking them to do? What micro yes can we get from them on this donor journey up this mountain? Is it a blog? Is it a sign up for this email? Is it a share this post with 10 friends? Is it donate? It needs to be really, really clear. And this copywriting formula helps us to formulate that copy for not-for-profits. And then I just want to touch on a couple of handy industry tips that we use quite often. So I think it was about 30 or 40% of people voted to say that they had run a Facebook campaign previously. So one common tool that we use at Digital Hot Sauce is the Audience Insights tab. It's really handy, provides a bunch of crucial information on your Facebook fan base. And that information includes things like audience demographics, and that might be age, gender, or the different age brackets of your fan base. This also covers likes. So what pages the people who like your page are actually liking themselves. And that's really helpful for targeting, because Facebook allows you to target some of those pages. So it is a really important piece of information to use in your targeting as well. And then the last little piece just here in terms of the insight that Audience Insights also provides is Facebook usage. So you can kind of see how often some of your fan base are using Facebook, whether they're dormant, whether they use it every day, which again helps with further targeting efforts and writing copy and whatnot. And then my personal favorite tip would have to be this Facebook ads library. This is a favorite tool of, I know, for me and especially Kyle as well. Favorite tool of ours when we're crafting our ads, and also when we're conducting competitor research. You know, Kyle mentioned a little bit about, you know, seeing what competitors are putting out there as part of your research process before you write ads. This is a really important step as well, because it helps you to see what advertisements are already out there with competitor charity organizations. So basically, all you need to do is head to this link. You search for an organization on Facebook, and if they're running ads, it'll show up there. So it's super cool. If it doesn't show up, it means that organization's not running ads. And in some cases as well, Facebook will also tell you the results of that ad, like how it performed in terms of reach, impressions, and clicks. And it will also sometimes tell you how much money was spent on that ad in terms of advertising dollars, which can really help inform your advertising strategy as well and advertising budgets.
All right. So we're going to talk about a couple different campaign types here, and the first one is the email acquisition campaign. So this is really one of the first, and I see a question about the link for the ad library. We will send that out as well, and maybe Dylan, you can drop it in. But one of the first things that we want to do on our donors' journey up the mountain is just acquire an email address. An email address can be so powerful for any organization, but especially for a not-for-profit. And so our goal here, when we set out to do this, is yes, we want to acquire new email addresses or new subscribers. And we realize that in order to get something from a potential donor, we're probably going to need to give something. And this can be, for a lot of organizations, a really big hill to try and climb. What am I going to give away? We've got some ideas for you that we're going to share. We're going to use the language of lead magnet here, and basically to define that further, this is something we offer to give away. That's the magnet in order to acquire an email address, thus being the lead. So our goal is to acquire new email addresses, and here are a few ideas that we think are great, low stakes, oftentimes things that already exist in your organization are easy enough to give away: a case study, an ebook, maybe it's a course or an e-card. We've got some examples that I'm going to show you in a second, people doing quizzes now, and that could be something you set up in Google Forms or on your web forms plugin, for example. A few specific ideas that we've seen that we just absolutely loved. There was a community organization locally who was giving away a document. It was 4 ways to support your community. You had to type in your name and your email address to get the document. An environmental group was giving away an energy savings checklist. Here are ways you can save energy in your home. Give us your email address. Or an animal shelter giving away a guide for new pet owners. Something we're all looking for as pet owners when we get a new animal, and this is a really simple tool for an organization like an animal shelter or a humane society to be able to provide. So here are some examples of this out in the world, and we may have done this as consumers, as users of some of these platforms ourselves, sort of not knowing that what's going on behind the scenes. And so the World Wildlife Foundation send free e-cards to friends and family. This is just a cute idea, frankly, that you could be doing. And they're acquiring your email address, and in addition, they're also acquiring your friends or family email address. So this is a double whammy for WWF. The Humane Society of the United States. I was talking about the guide for new animals or new animal owners. This is a top 10 tips article for animal care from veterinary experts. Super handy, super helpful. I just have to give my first name and my email address, and then I'm going to be entering their list as an email subscriber. One of the organizations we worked with, the Adventure Project, gave away a 2021 calendar, and again, just had to enter in some basic information, and then for us, this became a very useful tool to market to these people going forward. So a couple examples of lead magnets, and the point here is you shouldn't have to look too far to come up with what this could be, or what these could be.
Yeah, so just diving a little bit into email acquisition campaigns on Facebook and how we'd find our audience using that information that we just talked about. Essentially, gaining an email address for us is from a potential donor is a really crucial step in the journey. So it's very important to be running these sorts of campaigns, and awesome for that donor mountain concept that we've been talking about. For us specifically on Facebook, to help narrow down our audiences in 3 key areas, we use demographics, and we look at age, gender, location, language to inform our targeting and to build out somewhat of an audience. Behaviors as well, which is something that you can use in targeting for Facebook. So things like a job title, a relationship status, parent, or single, and then interests, which is a really big piece as well. And that's what interests and likes the audience engages with on Facebook. So that's a really important part for us to craft these targeting audience strategies. And then moving into building our ads. So we wanted to include some examples of our favorite email acquisition campaigns that we've seen on Facebook and that we've also kind of used in our campaigns in the past. So some are testing driving traffic to a landing page and trying to get them to sign up there. And then others are just testing specifically getting the donor to sign up through Facebook without having to leave the platform. One thing that we see in common across all these ads is that it's a really clear call to action. And the value prop is front and center, you know exactly what they're asking. And there's kind of no beating around the bush. We know we're trying to get an email address here. So these are just some really good examples that we've seen previously. So Adventure Project, we've got there, and some other ones as well.
And I would just add, Dylan, just jumping in, the 2 that stand out to me a lot on this page, the Humane Society International, for example, they're asking you to take action. They're asking you to be part of a movement here to say, hey, I want to sign this petition, and that can be another lead magnet that you offer is some sort of a petition, or as I talked about earlier, the quiz as a solution, like you're seeing with Bush Heritage Australia, like which party animal might you be? And so these are all ways to acquire an email address, but it's very clear to the potential donor what they're doing here, and when they take action, what's going to happen.
Yeah, so to bring this all together and summarize to an extent, these are the key pieces that we see for running successful email acquisition campaigns. Compelling lead magnet that we want people to download. Clear and concise landing page, so we know exactly what we're asking of the potential donor. An automated email series is always very helpful as well, because this ensures that communication with the donor is ongoing and relevant, and helps to pull them up this donor mountain to an extent, and continue communicating and asking things of the donor. We also talked a little bit about interest-based targeting campaigns on Facebook, and then we talked about the secret sauce of having a killer value proposition in your Facebook ads and ensuring that that's really clear.
So we've talked about the interest-based audience, the email acquisition campaign. So the first stage, bringing the donor up the mountain using our rope to help them along the way. We talk about remarketing now and some other tips to help our donor up the mountain. So for remarketing, the goal the goal is to convert people now into becoming a donor. And to further just define remarketing specifically, remarketing allows us to target people who have visited a website, a certain page on a website. Maybe it's a landing page for a campaign that you're running. We can also narrow down the time frame to say, I want to target people who have visited my donation page in the last 45 days, for example. We can also target people on our email list by uploading our email list as a custom audience to Facebook. These people are starting to move further up the funnel, and so you can start to understand as we think about it, the interest-based targeting, the remarketing-based targeting, the email list targeting. These are all different stages that someone's taking to get up the funnel, and so we have to be speaking a slightly different language to each of these groups. So a donation page obviously becomes really important. Where are we going to send these people now? Now that they've engaged with their organization in some way, they've given us their email address, they know who we are. How do we convert them at this point. And so for a general donation page, it's really important to have a simple header with clear headline and intro copy or text. Concise, general and bulleted copy is really a good way to kind of get the body copy together. And then reinforce the impact of donating through a clear call to action. Based on what we've seen through our work, the donation form is what comes next on the page, and usually there's a gift array option with 4 to 5 options. We're going to show you what this looks like in a second. Then you enter your personal information as well as your payment methods. And then again, another clear call to action button at the end. Make my one-time $50 gift, for example. So we see this with Plan International. Help reach the most vulnerable communities impacted by COVID-19. Donate now. This is all one page, but it's obviously tricky to fit this all on a slide. But this is what comes below this initial header. It heads right into the gift array, which you see at the top where it says donation amount. Then it moves into your information, payment info, and card information with a clear donate now button. So a really simple landing page. These are people who already have engaged with us and so are moving through the funnel.
So I just wanted to dive in and include some example remarketing ads that Kyle and I discovered in the newsfeed when doing the research for this presentation. We're seeing these people further up the donor mountain, which means that the messaging has a stronger CTA, but needs to focus a little less on the education of what they're about, just because someone has maybe already engaged with that charity or not-for-profit previously. These are also ads that drive a strong reaction from a target audience because it's a clear call to action. And the 2 examples we included here are Plan International Australia and Guide Dogs Australia, like very clear remarketing ads, and we know exactly what we're getting from this.
You can even see on the Guide Dogs Australia one, they're telling us that they're remarketing to us by saying, thank you for your support during 2020. So they know that we've supported them in 2020, and now they're asking for us to join them again in 2021. A great way to engage with your donors, maybe your one-time donors who gave to you once in 2020, and bring them back in 2021.
And so to summarize on this, on remarketing, define your audience. Is it people who previously visited your website, a past email list, people who visited a specific landing page? You also need to develop your donation landing page to have a strong CTA, which we all know because we're harping on about it. It's important. And write your Facebook ads and focus less on education and more on a stronger CTA in order to get that micro yes from the donor. So just going to dive into this last part here of testing, optimizing, scaling, and testing, because it's definitely that important. We see this all the time. It's important to continue going back and testing and learning new things. So with a standard campaign structure for us, and generally what we use with our Facebook ad campaigns, generally have a campaign at the top. So the campaign level, we would call that, where you pick your objective. So maybe the objective is to get leads or email sign-up subscribers, or perhaps the objective might be traffic to a website. And then the second level of this is the ad set level. And this is where we can run different tests. So for the example, in ad set 1, this might be an older female audience in Australia. And then the second ad set might be an older target demographic of males in Australia. And then finally, at the ad level here, this is where we can change our advertising or add in new ads and different variants. And generally, we try and use 3 different variants with different value props saying different things so that we can test which one has had the best effect.
Yeah, and finally, we wanted to leave you with this. This is a bit of our testing framework. We see ourselves as a bit of kind of this digital marketing scientist, and the way that we think about our marketing efforts. We want to take some insights about our donor and then form a hypothesis. What do we think is going to happen? Then we build and launch the test. Maybe like Dylan said, maybe we're testing 2 different or the same value prop with 2 different images in an ad, for example. Measure the impact. What's working, what's not? Can we understand why something might be working or not? And if we see impact, if we see positive impact, how can we optimize and extend that and ensure that our user journeys are optimized to leverage the impact that we're seeing? Maybe we extend this hypothesis to additional channels beyond just Facebook. It's also a good time to update any customer profiles we have based on what we're seeing in our tests. If we're not seeing impact, and this happens often, we need to go back and understand more about our customer. Maybe we've missed something. Back to surveys or more competitive research, understanding how people are using our website. These are all ways that we can help continue just to understand and refine who our audience is and how our messaging will land, to help with all these micro yeses to bring them up the donor mountain to the place where they ultimately convert. So that is it for us. Just really quickly, we're digital hot sauce. We love hot sauce. We don't make it. And so if you know of any hot sauces, please share them with Dylan or I. We'd love to hear about them. And really what we focus on is our whole mission is to get the results you need without any of the nonsense or BS. We are digital marketing for gutsy brands and disruptive not-for-profits. That's the space that we really play in. We'd encourage you to connect with either Dylan or I on LinkedIn. I know the Keela team is going to be sending out the recording of this and the slides as well. So definitely look for that in the coming days. And I believe I'm passing this back to Mel. Oh no, we're going to answer some questions first, right, Mel?
Yeah, of course. We do have some questions coming in. I can kind of list them off if you want. First of all, thank you guys so much. I am definitely not a Facebook ad. I don't know a lot. Let's put it that way. But now I feel like I've just done a whole crash course in Facebook ads, and that was absolutely fabulous. I hope everyone took as much away as I did, because that was great. So thank you guys. So our first question, sorry, I'm just trying to pull it up here. Do you run Google ad grants campaigns in the US for not-for-profits?
We do, and we've worked with a couple organizations in the United States and Canada who have the Google Ad Grant, and certainly there's some interesting requirements if you're familiar with the Google Ad Grant that you have to meet in order to stay in the program. So we do have experience having done that. I don't know if there's more to that question, but certainly we've done that.
Awesome, thank you. I'm sure they can get in touch with you to learn more about that. The next question, and this was sent privately, what's a good budget for ads? I know you need to spend a little bit, but my charity, doesn't have hundreds and hundreds of dollars to spend. So what do you kind of recommend for not-for-profits?
Yeah, we get this a lot, as you can imagine, working with not-for-profits, and what we generally say on this is there's a couple ways to think about budget. You can think about budget over a short time period as well, to say, hey, if we can spend $50 over the next couple of days, that can be impactful in terms of generating new email signups, for example. And so we don't have to be thinking of our budgets across a full month, because if you take a couple $100 and divide it by 30 days, there's not very much left over to test. And so that money certainly disappears quickly. But the way we think about it is just in shorter time periods. And so that helps us extend our impact in the market so that we can reach more people in a shorter amount of time. There are some not requirements, but best practices with Facebook to have ads in market for 7 days, for example, to get through what Facebook calls the learning phase and have a certain number of events trigger in order for Facebook to feel like they're optimizing the ad to the best of their ability. Those aren't requirements, but they're nice to haves. But certainly just thinking about the time frame you're running can help with the budget conversation.
Great, thank you. Next question. again, another private one. If people want if you want your questions to be read by everyone, please make sure that you select all attendees and panelists. So this one's another private one. How long does it take you to set up a campaign typically? And how much should you, and we kind of already talked about this, how much should you be optimizing it throughout?
Yeah. So in terms of the setup, for us, it's generally a couple of hours, but there's a lot more involved in the lead up to that. Obviously, understanding our target audience, doing the research necessary, and building out. Generally, what we work from is a Google Sheet or an Excel spreadsheet where we list our target audience on one sheet, and then we really understand, okay, how does the campaign structure look? And we showed this on one of the slides where it's campaign and the different ad sets and then the different ads we want to test. We literally take that in a Google Sheet and we start to map each of those different stages out. Who are the audiences we're going to target? What are the ads going to say? What are all the different components to the ads that we need them to say? What images do we want to use? And then we can upload that directly into Facebook. So that's generally how we work in terms of the build out of these. But it can take, several days to do the research and to get the information ahead of time. Dylan, anything to add to that one?
No, I think you covered it pretty good. There is a lot of groundwork to be done before the ads even go live, and I think you've kind of covered that well, but that's a really important part that you can't really skip over. So yeah, we definitely recommend doing that.
Awesome, good advice. The next question coming from Ines, how do you measure impact? What are the most important metrics to track?
Yeah, this is a great question, and I think what we generally see here is, again, when we're doing our build out and thinking about that campaign structure, we're making a hypothesis where we think that by doing X we will get Y, or we will solve problem Y. That becomes the immediate metric, that we'd call it the lagging indicator. We want more email subscribers. Okay, that's going to take some time to start to see those results come in. So other metrics we look at that are important: cost per click. How much is it costing to get one click to our website? What's the click-through rate at the ad level? If we're testing 3 different variations of an ad, for example, we want to know which one is more engaging to people. Another great way to measure engagement: how many likes, comments, or shares does the ad have? If it's a video ad, how many views? Metrics like these we'd consider more leading indicators for us. So things that are going to happen sooner, they can maybe give us some directional sense on the way that the campaign is going to go. And pretty early on, we'd be able to make a determination or a decision to say, let's focus our efforts more on ad variant 2 instead of ad variant 1, because we're seeing it have a higher click-through rate or a lower cost per click. Those are things that we'd be really we'd really try and keen in on early in the campaign to make adjustments and optimize from there.
Just to add to that as well, I'd probably throw frequency in there too. It's a really good indicator of how many people are seeing your ads and how frequently they're seeing it. So if we know that the frequency is 4, which means maybe on average they've seen it 4 times, then we know that the target audience that we've chosen might be a bit too small and that people are being bombarded too much. And you can kind of readjust your targeting based on that. But yeah, that's another one I'd throw into the mix as well.
Awesome. Thank you, guys. I think we maybe have time for one more question. And so speaking of time frame, we have another question. How do you decide how to set a time frame?
Yeah, I saw this come in when we were answering the previous questions. So good follow up. I think one of the things we start with, so for example, right now, today in Canada is International Women's Day. And so we've had this day circled on our calendar for a while working with our not-for-profit organizations. That's one way that we've set a time frame for a specific campaign, to say, hey, leading up to this, 2 weeks before, we know we want to be acquiring some email addresses so that on International Women's Day on March 8th, we can be emailing and engaging with our audience, our new email list. We're also, today turned on a bunch of our remarketing campaigns to drive donations, for example. So that can be one way to start thinking about the time frame. The other is, as I mentioned, Facebook requires about 7 days of activity, really, in order, they say, to have full optimization of your campaign. So that can be another kind of baseline that you set for time frame as well.
Very cool. Very interesting. I literally had no idea about any of this, so thank you all. I think we'll end it there just because timing is of the essence here. So I will end it with that. Thank you guys so much again. That was honestly so great. I learned so much. I hope everyone else did too.